Podcast. This is a podcast that now focuses on the 90s, and we're calling it the Undiscovered Decade. We took stock of what we've been doing, and we realized that our favorite thing has been to find some hidden gems that people aren't talking about anymore 30 years later. Like our Loose Cannons episode back in February 1990. We talked about Crybaby. We talked about Dick Tracy last month. Even though that was a pretty big film, it, what isn't talked about anymore. And so we're starting to take a look at those undiscovered films. And this month we're looking at July 1990 and the movie Quick Change. This starred Bill Murray, as you can see behind Jeff, as a clown who robs a bank. An ingenious plot that actually, Corey, you'll like this. I did not see coming that he had accomplices, even though I knew the plot, the basic log line.
And you've seen the poster.
Right. I didn't put two and two together when Randy Quaid looked like Wolfman Jack and was freaking the fuck out.
That's funny because I put that together pretty quickly. I'm like, oh, he's definitely an accomplice the way he's acting. And I was like, and him being like, kind of a big actor-ish.
Well, I didn't.
Maybe not at that point, but like
I didn't recognize him at first. I was like, "Why is Geena Davis like in a weird shirt?" I just thought she had Stockholm syndrome. I thought that was gonna be the plot. Like he ends up taking two of the people with him to make his getaway. I thought that's how they ended up. And then they were like, "Yeah, sure, we'll help you with the money," and they become his accomplices that way. I thought that's how it was gonna reach the log line.
Kind of like Three Fugitives.
Yeah,
the Martin Short film.
Right.
Because seeing Randy Quaid in there, I'm like, I thought that he was just Randy Quaid being Randy Quaid.
Yeah.
I wasn't expecting that either. And it was a really well done quick change, if you will.
Mm-hmm. Well, that actually
do we want to go into like the actual synopsis of?
Yeah, I mean, we start off with the bank robbery, and
but it's just sort of like a casual bank robbery. Like it's Bill Murray as a clown just walks into a bank.
It's a perfectly deadpan, droll, sardonic bank robbery.
It's Bill Murray.
Bill Murray as the Joker.
Bill Murray.
Yeah, this is a good point. He was saying the whole time he's robbed the bank. Did Nolan actually base the Dark Knight opening on the Quick Change opening?
But then I remember Nolan based it on he actually based it on
Heat,
The Killing, and we'll get to that.
The Killing too. Yeah.
Oh,
why not? So but from beginning to end, by the time we got to the end of the movie, I was just like, so basically. What a short change? That's the name of this movie.
Quick
change. I'm so like.
Short Time was a movie.
That's why I was vamping earlier. I forgot the name of the movie.
So this movie is basically a comedic version of The Killing.
Yeah.
Although The Killing has some dark comedy in it.
Oh yeah, no, definitely. It was a comedy for sure, but or dark comedy. But this is just comedy in the classical sense, with a happy ending.
Yeah, see, I was feeling like it's a romantic comedy of if it's the first 5 minutes of The Dark Knight as a rom-com.
I was gonna say that Bill Murray and Geena Davis had really palpable chemistry.
Yeah, I really believe
especially in the first scene after they get out of the bank.
Yeah.
And they're reminiscing how they concocted the robbery. I was like, they have some sparks. They got some snappy dialogue too.
Yeah. And it actually made me like Randy Quaid. I realized that I just didn't like what he was doing in the bank, and I was so worried they were going to focus on him like that. I thought the beard was real, like an idiot. And so I was thrilled when he's just like a goofball.
The funny part is his character arc is like a reverse bell curve because he starts off heightened, he subdues for a little bit, and then he gets heightened again.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I don't normally
getting a concussion,
but here,
yeah,
I'm convinced
Quaid's a bit over the top with the characters that he portrays.
Yeah, like Christmas Vacation.
Yeah, but that's kind of how he started off in this movie.
Yeah,
he was a little over the top, but that was a hostage situation. So if he's gonna play a character like that, of course he's gonna be over the top. But he sort of became more of a bumbling oaf.
Mm-hmm.
But an endearing, lovable guy that you can't help to be angry at him, so you just kind of let it go.
They
It's like,
never
I'm
explain it, but there's got to be a reason he's with this couple. They never say like he's one of their brothers or
Right.
he's
Well,
the best
well,
friend. He's not a third wheel though.
well, he's been friends with Bill Murray's character since like he said, it's like please don't hit me again because like he
Yeah.
hit him and he was like I haven't
You
hit
were
you
like 9.
since fourth grade or
Yeah.
fifth grade.
I
was
like
like,
to.
yeah,
I like
know.
to think it's
But, like,
kind of like
they're
a.
clearly childhood friends, and Bill Murray's like the smart guy, and he's able to like maybe not even like fool this guy into going into these cons. He's such a good friend that like he's just yeah, sure, no, I'll help you out.
I
Yeah.
feel like it's kind of an of mice and men situation.
He's the Lenny.
I
Right.
almost said Lenny.
He didn't snap Geena Davis's neck though. In fairness,
Yes.
Oh god. They got to get to wherever they're going.
Yeah, well,
But I'm also convinced that Randy Quaid is just such a good actor deep down that he like did all of his own stunts, and that concussion he suffered is real, and that's like what kind of set off the rest of Randy Quaid's career was
And, like,
it's weird.
running-
Once the '90s
running
hit,
into
he
that
started to
news
do more comedic roles because early in his career he's doing like The Last Detail and Last Picture Show, and those are more dramatic. He got nominated for one of those. I think the
I mean,
last.
yeah, Last
I guess
Detail. I
the
didn't know
concussion's
until
what did it for
today.
him.
Yeah.
That's why.
And now he's a QAnon lunatic.
Yeah. No.
fantastic.
Yeah. It totally derailed what I was gonna say.
Oh, but I was gonna say this is a great. You know how every movie from the '90s is like a love letter to New York City. This is not. This
Yeah.
is like a misanthropic outsider's point of view of New York City. So there's little subtle jabs at the city throughout.
Yeah.
Like for instance, when the bank robbery first starts, a hot dog vendor quick runs into the crowd.
Yeah. Oh my God, that was so good.
And then at the beginning when he
got to get them fed.
when he's dressed as a clown, nobody pays attention to him because that's commonplace in New York. People see
Subway.
weirdos like that all the time. And when he goes into the bank and he's trying to convince people this is a robbery, everybody just looks desensitized, like, we see this all the time.
I saw
Probably
this
just a guy pulling a prank.
other day of a person in a rat costume getting on the subway and just like perching and like looking at everybody and no one cared.
Yeah,
And you thought nothing of it.
Yeah, it's New York. I do like
It's like
that the bank
Tuesday.
no one cares that he's robbing the bank. He's like, this is a gun.
Right. It was. It felt like, you know, if Ghostbusters was a love letter to New York, it was Bill Murray's love letter to New York. This was his like, I'm fed up with this.
Yeah, well,
Like
he's from-
how
This
many
is hatchet
times?
job to New
How
How
York.
many times he literally says out loud, "God, I hate this."
You know what their problem is? They live here.
yeah,
He says that a few times too.
yeah, that's good.
Yeah.
I do like their take on Brooklyn too, because it was still a little crummy, at least like in the street and stuff like it's
Oh yeah.
dirty,
What
but
One of my favorite scenes was the construction workers
oh yes,
really trying to get to the BQE.
it's like right there too. I know
Yeah.
where they're filming every time, and they're in like the actual location they're talking about
Yeah.
every time they're there. And
And then the establishing shot when there's a great camera work where he's like, if only we could find a landmark, and they pull back and show the Statue of Liberty.
Right.
Yeah.
Like that's how you navigate through New York. You find landmarks.
Yeah, it was funny. Like the set, like the way that they shot that, like this from where they were before that shot. They're like the statue's not that close.
yeah,
Yeah, because I've seen like I used to live like right off the J and Q line, and like when it goes above
That's
ground,
way
you could. I mean, yeah, but like it still looks like it's still you could see this the statue, but it's not like it's not close.
well, down like
Like-
past Red Hook is where they were. They're like at right below the Verrazano.
Yeah,
And that's where they're stuck there too. That's the irony. Where they were shooting that shot, probably couldn't get to the BQE if they wanted.
yeah.
Well,
It was
hang,
like,
hang on. Let's like recap what that scene entailed for those of you who.
Well, sure.
Yeah.
So
remember.
they go through the bank robbery. Bill Murray holds all these hostages in a vault after proving that the gun is real. And there's a couple people in there that are highlighted, including Geena Davis and Randy Quaid as their undercover hostages. There's a yuppie who tries to sell his watch for protection from Bill Murray. Here's a fun fact. That is the actress Betty Gilpin's father. She's the star of Glow.
Oh,
He's now a reverend. He really never did anything that big, but he's a bit character all through the 90s. So, but no one else really tries to get out. The other guy behind Jeff's shoulder is Bob Elliott, Chris Elliott's father. He's a comedian from the mid 20th century, so I don't know exactly his range. I forgot to look up his time, but he was a pretty big comedian, I think, in the 50s and 60s, and so this is like a nice cameo for him in the twilight of his career. But he opens the door for Murray. He's like, the bank's about to close, and Murray busts in and is like, I'm robbing the bank, and they're all blasé about it. The guard's like, I'm not gonna stop you. I don't want to die for this. So he's kind of like the spokesperson for the hostages, and then they eventually get out because Murray sets it up that talking to the hostage negotiator, played by Jason Robards, is supposed to give him a bunch of vehicles for a getaway, and that is a bunch of red herrings. So you don't know which vehicle he's going to use. They think they're going to tag them as they get to one of the vehicles. But Murray's trick is he came in as a clown, so everyone's describing the clown. He takes the makeup off. Everyone thinks he's just a hostage. And so he comes out with Geena Davis at one point, and they all think it's just Murray let 2 hostages go, and they just walk away.
It's pretty ingenious plot.
Yeah, yeah.
Yep.
So then they're reconnoitering near a payphone so that he can still call Robards, so that he can trick him into giving them a little more time to get away. Like I'll send another hostage out in like 5 minutes, and Randy Quaid accidentally beeps the horn of their getaway car, and obviously there's no cars inside the bank. So now they don't have enough time. They got to get to JFK, but
yeah. But leading up to this, the demands that he makes to release the hostages just keep getting more and more ridiculous.
Mm-hmm.
Like he's asking for a helicopter and a monster truck, and they actually did, like, I'm pretty sure that monster truck was like half the movie's budget.
Yeah.
And drive it down the street.
The
And Bill Murray is calling from a payphone. He doesn't even see it. He's like, that's a
He
piece.
doesn't have a hydraulic tilting body.
Yeah.
Right.
It's unacceptable.
And it's at that moment that Randy Quaid honks the horn,
Yep.
setting off the events.
So then they got to make their way through Brooklyn faster to try and get over to Queens and the airport and everything. And so many things go wrong, including when they're trying to get to the BQE, these construction workers have taken down a sign that leads them like probably 100 feet to where the entrance is. But everything when you're driving around Brooklyn looks like it could be an entrance to a highway. There are one-ways, ramps that are hidden behind buildings, and it's just a mess down there. So
I was getting PTSD from that shot.
Yeah, I have PTSD from that.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah. Try driving a box truck through Brooklyn.
You see, like when I lived down there, like, or lived near there, and was walking around and need to get somewhere, I usually had a couple hours extra time to like just wander.
Mm-hmm.
So like I could afford to get lost and get well acquainted with the streets.
You hadn't just robbed a bank.
Yeah, yeah. I also hadn't just robbed the bank, but like it got so I guess bad or good, however you want to look at it. Like whenever like I'll be walking around with friends, they're like, "How do we get to this location from here?" I'm like, "Probably make a right over there." And then we're like, "What?" And I'm like, "Yeah, no, probably make a right over." Not even like really like paying attention to like this like street names like East 34th, blah blah blah, yada yada. I'll just look at I'll look at
numbers mess you up.
Yeah, no, I looked at landmarks and I'm like, yeah, no, I recognize that building. We want to make a right over there, and I'm like, okay, all right, make the right. And
I
like,
eventually
it's like, how'd you know? It's like I got lost here for 4 hours. I had time to get well acquainted.
But clearly,
Look for the Statue of Liberty. If only we had a landmark.
Yeah.
So they go through a series of amusing scenarios that trip them up on their way to the airport. That involves a bunch of cameos from a various amount of actors. The first of which is Jamie Sheridan, who played the president in Homeland. Eventually, he plays this guy who's just standing by a car. He's looking at a map, so they think he'll know where to lead them to the airport. And they drive up to him, and clearly they're in a bad part of the town, but they still want to trust someone. And they're like, it's Iowa plates. He's just looking at a map. But the guy's robbing. He has a stolen car. So he immediately robs the three of them, takes their car.
And
so,
they're
He
lugging.
doesn't even know the capital of Iowa.
Oh wait, did we say that like They hid the cash on them.
Well, this is a perfect time to say that.
Oh yes, they had the cash on them, so the guy that robbed them didn't take their cash
Right.
because they were smart enough
So the
to
movie
tuck their
doesn't
money
end.
under their clothes and tape it shut.
It doesn't become a
Or
thing where
take
they
it
have to
back.
chase Sheridan down
Yeah.
and steal it back. But it just goes to show you why Murray's trying to get out of New York. He's like, we're all gonna die eventually if we stay here. So they have to get new clothes because clearly they're in clothes that they were last seen in. They don't want to be identified. So Geena Davis is like, I still have some clothes in my apartment. And so they go there and it's already been sold. So they double park real quick, try to rush in and change. And then the new tenant pops in, played by one of my favorite actors who I didn't know was in this, Phil Hartman. I'm thrilled that he was here. He's amusing in his little bit. And he just holds a gun on them and they convince him not to shoot them. And that's a little bit where you appreciate the chemistry between Murray and Davis. They know how to get out of a situation pretty well. Just play on their better angels, I guess. But then, while they're being held up sort of by Hartman, this fire happens across the street. And because they're double parked in front of a fire hydrant, they break the car and try to move it by pushing it into neutral. And it's on a hill and it rolls into a park and off the street. And
Then their getaway vehicle is just destroyed.
yeah, so now they have no way to get there.
There's like honestly, that car is Randy Quaid's version of Geena Davis. Like that car is his romantic interest. That
Yeah, I didn't take that.
more and more.
He does get overly emotional about it.
Yeah, well, he's a getaway driver. That was
his thing.
That was his thing.
Yeah.
So his thing went away into basically New York street trash. Yeah.
Yep.
Just like bye doodles.
So the next thing they do is they're wandering. It's getting dark now. They've already had to delay their flight. Murray actually brings up that he had a backup flight because he knew that something could have gone wrong. And
It's New York after all.
This is where it actually gets touching. He and Davis are starting to fight, and you already know from some conversations Geena Davis has had with Randy Quaid that something's going on with.
Should we blanket say spoilers?
Oh, everyone knows. We don't need. I don't think we need to say spoilers anymore. In this
Yeah,
podcast.
Because we're going incident by incident here.
There's a handful of people out there that have seen it and they're like, okay, these
Well, we
guys
already gave away the hostage gag.
I mean, the
honestly,
reason
like, we
we're
should just
listening to this podcast is
we
to
should just-
hear us think about quick change, right?
Yeah.
So
We'll just rename the
Reverse
podcast. 4 dudes and spoil everything.
yeah.
In a bad situation.
Okay.
So the thing that happens is you're kind of learning that you kind of infer that Geena Davis is pregnant, and she doesn't actually say it till the end, but that's what she's hinting at to Randy Quaid, that she and Murray are going to have a kid. So they're talking, and it's like, do you want to be known as a criminal if we're having a child, if we're starting a family? That's her big modus operandi. And they're bickering as they've lost the car. And he's like, I tried my best to predict what would happen, and I didn't want to worry you. So it's nice that he's looking out for her, but maybe he needs to communicate better. Maybe she would be more open to him.
In typical
being a nice little relationship drama.
In typical Bill Murray fashion, he's just the sensitive asshole.
Yeah,
pretty much.
Yeah, that's what he's
Right.
known for.
So anyway, they need to get to JFK. So they try to find a cab. Driven by none other than
Monk.
In his first on-screen role, Tony Shalhoub,
Bluff Tony.
who
Bluff Tony.
entire
Bluff Tony.
role is in another language, which I don't think he knew originally. He's Lebanese, I believe. I don't know if he has anything else in there, but I don't know if the driver's supposed to be Lebanese. He comes from Illinois, so
he could have just made up some like something that vaguely sounded Arabic,
right,
based on what he knew from his childhood,
Yeah,
from like grandparents or parents or something.
right. From what I understand, he kind of just made it up on the spot in the audition, and they're like, "Yeah, that's perfect." So
Because it's like if
Like
you
when
were
you get away with that.
portray a Korean character, I'm like, well, I'll be the complete opposite. I'll be like, screw that. No, I can't. I can't make up Korean noises.
well, you're not trying to go for an audition.
Yeah, I'm not trying to go for an audition, but like he pulled it off.
But yeah, he's really amusing. Just trying to communicate. You can understand what he's trying to say to the cops when Robards eventually gets to the scene. This is the first part where they are clued in on their location, the closest they get, the cops. And Shaloub is good with animated information. He's always uses his arms to try and convey emotion, and so you kind of get he's like pointing out where they are, and no one's really paying attention to like his body language. But in this moment, they're struggling with trying to communicate with him since he's using a different language. Randy Quaid panics because they hear a report on themselves in the cab and jumps out of the moving car and plants himself face first into a newsstand and knocks himself unconscious. This is what Jeff was talking about earlier. That may have led to his demise in real life.
But then, but then after that, like he's knocked out, and then it's a really touching moment because Bill Murray and Geena Davis are looking over him. They're like, they've been taking care of him for so long. They're like, you got to get up, man. We gotta do this. And then meanwhile, there's just other New Yorkers kind of looking on. I'm like, oh, guys,
Rubbernecking.
right. But then the rest of the movie, like Randy Quaid is just he's exhibiting concussion symptoms in real time. Really weird.
He curls up at one point in Geena Davis's lap, even though she's like half his size.
Right.
That's great. They play that touching moment for a second. And she was like, "No, you didn't do anything wrong, except when you honked the fucking horn and then slaps him in the face."
Like, okay, you're okay now, so you can.
Yeah. The next thing that happens is that since they're trying to avoid any attention, they duck into with a now concussed Randy Quaid into the nearest open door, which happens to be a mob hideout. Of course, because of course they're luck. And of course it's Brooklyn, so every other corner is a mob hideout.
And it's Stanley Tucci with hair.
I know, it's so almost. It's so
kind of.
It's mostly hair.
There's a reason he's bald. It does not look like he's any younger, which is amazing because he's so close to his best friend, and they never actually interact in this movie.
Yeah, there's no scenes with the two of them.
No.
Stanley Tucci.
They're mere feet away.
Yeah, I think they walk past each other once. What's his name comes by? That in the big guy that actually the name that
the big
Mario comes
boss?
up. Yeah, not Mario. Does he say Mario?
Yeah, it's Mario, the enforcer.
Wait, or
he just makes up the first Italian name that comes to mind. Murray vamps when he's inside the mob hideout because they're like, "What are you doing in here?" They got all their guns pointed on him. Tucci's the tough for this Gambino guy. And
it's great. Murray gets to use some of his improvisational skills.
And the first Italian name he comes up with, he's like, "Mario sent us. Do you want Mario to show up?" It's like he actually says Mario's boss first, and he's like, "Would you rather Mario be here?" And they're all like, "No, we don't want Mario." And so he gets away with it, and they pay him to go away.
Yeah,
like even at the end of that, Geena Davis is like, "I can't believe you grifted the mob and made them feel bad for you."
It wasn't that they paid him to go away. It was like he basically convinced them that he was the pickup guy.
Yeah, because what else are you gonna say? Yeah. I wandered in because I'm a criminal, just avoiding someone else. They might have understood actually if he just was like, "I'm just trying to get away from the cops," and they're like, "Oh, okay, fine, get out of here."
Like, oh.
But so then they get a little more money, and they walk outside, and there's a bus. And this is actually the one moment I was kind of annoyed at because it kind of like it's very frustrating. Maybe that I don't think it was bad. I think it was driving me crazy because of the tension.
I was gonna say that was a pretty suspenseful scene when they're getting on the bus.
Yeah, I don't think I disliked it. I disliked it because I didn't want to experience it.
The longest minute and 28 seconds, allegedly.
I have had that problem getting on a bus in New York City and not having exact change, and they freak out at you.
Well,
they don't do that anymore.
But you have cards now, so like you kind of have to have a pay card.
Yeah.
And you fill that up and swipe it. And
but in 1990,
It was like up until we were out of college, they didn't have that though. They were still like some buses. I remember when I went.
Yeah,
in,
I think that
like, during
they had
college.
the pay card, but like you could still pay in cash.
Yeah, and I didn't
You
know
had it.
that, and I had like $1, and they were like angry that I gave them more than they were getting. Like it was 20 cents, and I gave them a full fucking $1.
Yeah, it's like call it a donation. Just let me get
Yeah.
on.
I'm just going 6 blocks. I could have fucking walked.
Yeah, it was.
So the bus driver forces him off, and he has to get exact change before they're going to be allowed on the bus.
Philip
Meanwhile,
Bosco, by the way.
That's right, Philip Bosco. I didn't remember his name off the top of my head. What was he from? Like, what's he done? Because I know all these other cameos. That
He's been in a bunch of stuff.
I didn't know.
Basically, I guess people would know him mostly from. He's in a lot of '90s movies. So he's in Milk Money. He was in Nobody's Fool.
Yes.
He was actually in the Dream Team, Blue Steel.
Oh, that's where I'd seen him, the Dream Team.
Yeah, Money Pit.
Yeah. So he's just a guy that's been around. All
He's
these
a
guys
character actor.
Love, like Phil was about to be in SNL, Bob Elliott, So meanwhile, Robards is finally figuring out where they are because there's a tip about this cabbie that's going crazy, a guy that hit the newsstand. So Robards and his cops descend on the scene. Meanwhile, the mob has figured it out, and so they burst outside, and everyone's getting involved. Mario shows up. They all bump into each other. There's a confusion between the fact that Shaloub is saying something no one understands. They never got a translator. Mario is rushing at the people he knows has stolen his money, and the cops think it's all involved with just the two of them.
There's a dark moment where you see Tony Shalhoub with blood trickling out of his nose, and you know they've beaten him up. The police had beaten him up and for interrogation purposes.
Yep. Yeah, Robards is like, I told you not to do that.
I told you to get an interpreter. I thought you said interrogate him.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
It's weird because I'm like, it was definitely a product of its time, making fun of foreign cabbies who couldn't speak English. But I'm like, I don't know if you could really do that today. But at the same time, Bill Murray was also sensitive to it because it's just like he played it up as this guy's genuinely trying to help.
Yeah, the fact and
Geena Davis was for a second.
I didn't want this to happen.
Yeah.
Geena Davis was for a second, but then she eventually lost her patience. She said, "The goddamn airport."
Yeah. And I think that's what he was saying. I don't know. I think he got it.
Yeah.
Because obviously he leads Robards to the airport.
He's got it.
Oh no, because that's the switcheroo. You think that Shaloub has brought them there because he knew where they were going, and you find out later about Mario's involvement. So they eventually get away from all this. They get on the bus. They're finally there. I forgot about the they keep stopping and going very slowly. It's the long road to the airport. Like every stop is taken by
it's a local bus, not an express
that's
bus.
What I'm trying to say.
So I was making all the local stops, and then there was like this one guy. He tries to get on the bus at one of the stops, and he's got like a bunch of junk on him. He looks like just like a street guy, and the bus driver, like being kind of who he is, like what he did to Bill Murray, is like, you gotta have exact change. The guy's like, I don't have exact change. He's like, well, then you can't get on. I was like, but I need to get on. So like everybody's freaking out because they need to get to the airport. So Bill Murray's like, you know what? I got the $6,000 that I just got. I don't really need it because I got plenty more cash on me. Nobody else knows that.
Yeah.
Just Bill Murray and the gang. And he goes, here's $6,000. Take the next bus. And the guy's just like, all right.
Yeah. Which is the skin off of their teeth.
Yeah. Yeah, and now he just threw the mob off his trail because he just gave the mob money to some.
I never had it. This money was from a bank robbery. So they finally get off at their stop, and they have no idea where to go from the bus stop to the airport. But they're wandering this really dark, sketchy street, which still in today looks a little sketchy at night. But they're wandering, and my favorite moment of the film comes in. There's this woman on the street corner yelling for flowers. I don't know what the Spanish is exactly. It's like Dolorosa.
Flowers for the dead.
Yeah.
Flowers for the dead.
I don't remember.
It's also Tristan, you'll appreciate this. It's a reference to Who's Afraid of Virginia Woolf.
Oh, it's actually Streetcar Named Desire.
Oh, the Streetcar Named Desire?
Yes,
And the
there's
killer.
literally a
Ah.
woman when Blanche gets off the tram to get to Stanley's house, her sister's place.
Yep.
There's this person selling flowers and trying to like just make her wares, and she comes in the moments when like you're sure Blanche might be dead and stuff. So it's like a signifier from Tennessee Williams that she is dead. So it's to freak these three out. And that's why I was laughing so hard. I completely forgot that's Streetcar Named Desire.
Yeah, well,
I think they
But
do.
yeah,
it.
and so it's
It's-
literally she's just doing this. She's by
Second-
herself in a dimly lit street corner in the middle of the night, and they walk by and they're just like, "Well, it's not like that's ominous or anything."
And
Like they
when
literally
you-
just call it out.
Yeah. It's not like that's a metaphor.
Yeah, it's funny because like that's the second comedic surreal moment.
Yeah.
In the
Oh,
movie,
we
My
didn't
other
mention
favorite
the
scene.
involving Spanish,
best moment.
Spanish stuff, like the Spanish speaking lady saying flowers for the dead, flowers for the dead, flowers for the dead, and everyone's going like, what is she saying? What is she saying? That's ominous. And then I think Geena Davis like she's saying flowers for the dead.
Yeah.
And then what's his name? The
Quaid.
Quaid is just like, oh no, freaking out.
Yeah.
But then, like
Everyone-
earlier in the film, before they lose the car, they're driving by a like old Catholic church, monastery, or whatever, and then you see this priest come out and like this dude on a bike and another dude on the bike, and there's a joust.
And they think they're going to ask the first bike for directions. This is before their car's robbed, I think.
Or after,
Yeah,
Well,
somewhere
some
around the
point, like
beginning.
somewhere closer to the earlier half of
Near
the
the
movie.
hall.
So like, there's just a weird moment where like, so Spanish Catholics jousting in the middle of the streets of Brooklyn.
In like at like 2 p.m.
But
Just
yeah,
a bunch of
yeah.
bad omens.
That would have been fun.
So
But-
good. And that's when we
Unless it
knew.
was.
Jeff came over and watched with the two of us, and we all leaned forward like this is the clincher for this film. This is why this film.
Like it's the best moment in the entire film, and it has nothing to do with Bill Murray.
I
Yeah,
wanted
was
surrealism.
It was a weird, really weird segue.
Yeah.
And then like I guess
They never explain it.
they
No.
don't have to. They didn't have
Which is
to.
the best.
And but the thing is, like, then they go into these good, the bad, and the ugly shots of like the people's families that are just like so disappointed that their guy lost, and it's just
I think they're jousting with broomsticks. Am I wrong?
right.
Yeah.
Well, no, one's got a shovel and the other's got a broom.
Oh,
Like,
okay,
so
yeah.
obviously,
The one they try to talk to.
one- someone's gonna get seriously injured here.
So good. So after the Dolorosa lady, they do see a garage door open and a baggage carrier comes out, and they're like, "Oh, well, we're here. I got it." So they give the guy a couple $1,000s to get them straight to the plane, and so they can get right outside the plane. Murray rushes into the airport to get their passes, and it's jam-packed full of people. They're not getting on their flight. And so he's like, let me just saunter up to the counter. And who of all people but Red Foreman, Kurtwood Smith himself, Mikhail
Clarence
Bachman,
Bodiger to other people.
or Clarence Bacher,
Also from Chicago.
who's, yeah, he is. There's a lot of Chicago people. Is Geena Davis from Chicago?
No, but Bill Murray is.
Yeah, that's what we said earlier.
Yeah,
So so anyway, Red is yelling at the front desk person that he's pissed that Murray has cut him and he needs to get on the plane and everything. He's one of those guys.
Yeah, and Murray's like, it's like, no, I just gotta ask a question. Just gotta ask.
And
a
of
question.
course the attendant is like, well, now I'm helping this person because fuck you, Kurtwood Smith, you're being a dick.
Yeah.
And so Murray looks back at him like he's a little shit
Yeah.
and
He's like, oh, look at
gets
me.
the passes right away and then gets out on the plane. And meanwhile, as I mentioned, they were bickering, Geena Davis and Murray, about their future. And right as they're passing the ominous flower lady, she had said, I don't think I'm going to go. I know what's best for us, and I don't think all of us going is the best idea. I wasn't sure if this was right of her to do, because now it's throwing everything off. It was the plan. Like, why stay in New York when you're definitely a wanted criminal? But
Well, you know,
I
she's pregnant.
understand.
She's got hormones going on, so
Right.
like logic circuits, like this makes sense to her.
I think she wants
Like-
to take care of the kid where she's from. I
Yeah.
don't know.
Or she doesn't want to be on the lam the rest of her life. She's
Right.
just not sure.
I think
She feels like that maybe if they leave New York City, Bill Murray's still going to be like this guy that's going to do like these big heists all the
It's-
time.
Yeah,
Right,
the
like,
thing
Bill
she
Murray-
says is, I saw a different side of you today.
it's a nice dynamic because it's like, you know, you see these scenes in movies where, you know, these people that are in a relationship, one of them is just like trying to be sensitive and end it because the other one is doing great things with their job. It just so happens that this time around, his job is he's a bank robber. And he's finally like, you're doing big things, and I don't want to hold you back with that. And, you know, at the same time, she's just kind of like, I don't want the kid to be, you know, the son of a criminal. But you know,
What do you mean?
it's a really heartfelt moment for what it is. And I just think it's funny how they're just like, they could be Bonnie and Clyde, and she's just trying to like ease it back a little bit.
Yeah, it's good.
Like this accidental success.
Yeah. So of course, after he gets the passes, he gets on the plane and she's not there, but Randy is. So he assumes she has chosen to stay. And so Bodker's there, and he's miffed that Quaid and Murray are standing next to him discussing whether they should stay too, because Murray's like, this was the plan. I can't go without her. There's no reason for me to be in paradise without the person I want to be in paradise with. I know you want to be there. And Quaid's like, well, then I don't know if I want to go. And he's like, you're the most visible person. You gotta go. Like, we're fucked if you stay here, obviously. And then Bodker kind of gets miffed again, and I think what exactly happens? Robards bursts into the plane, and they think Robards.
He gets in.
It's just all at the same time.
Yeah.
And they think
Now,
it's
here's
just him.
the important thing to remember is up until this point, the cops have never seen Bill Murray without the makeup.
Right. And of course, Wolfman Jack's beard is hidden.
Right. So
So
they go to storm the plane.
and Kurtwood Smith jumps up and he's like, "You'll never take me." And they get into a fight. Turns out Kurtwood Smith is that
Gambino.
That big mob boss.
That
owned
Mario works for.
that owned the warehouse where they got the $6,000 originally.
And
Yeah.
Mario actually ratted him out and said this was his plane. You got to go get him now. It's just a coincidence that they're taking the same plane as this mob boss. So everything's all right. And they actually help support him because Geena Davis is in the bathroom and opens the door at the right time to like hit Kurtwood Smith, and they tackle him, and Robards actually thanks Murray and wants to commend him and asks him for his address to give him like a commendation. So, and only after getting off the plane realized that the name of the address is the pseudonym he'd been using in the
Chip.
He said like Chettsville or Chip.
Chip.
Like at the beginning when he was still the clown, it's like, yeah. Call me
Wait.
something.
Call me Skip.
Or Skip. Yeah,
Yeah,
Skip.
it was Skip.
No, it was
So
like, what is
good.
it? What is it like? Oh no,
Real
call me
tight.
Skip. No, wait, call me Chip.
Yeah,
It was the other way around.
Yeah,
Chip
it was
and then
just a
Skip.
weird, you know,
I always wanted to be Chip.
it was a fake nickname. And then they called back to it at the end. It was a very nice book. And
They get away. It's very
And then-
satisfying.
but like, it's like after the plane's in the air and the guy and the
Robards.
Robards was just like, you know, I gotta give a commendation to that Chipowski.
Chipowski?
Or was it Skipowski? And then he realizes, oh,
He was like, dang it! But I caught the mob boss. So sorry.
I mean, it's a better win, honestly, for him. So-
right.
I tell you what, nothing else. This movie is so briskly paced. There's no fat. No
Yeah.
fat on this one.
That's the reason we went
Yeah.
through it this way. I think appreciating it in order, like,
Yeah, no, that movie was very easy to sit down and watch. Like,
and discuss just now. Like,
Yeah,
that was
Yeah,
nice.
yeah.
Yeah.
It's one of my favorite Bill Murray movies,
Yeah.
but it's
what about
so.
Bob?
That's actually the next thing he does.
What's that?
What about Bob?
That's a good movie too.
Yeah. And this was
but-
Murray's directorial debut.
His only directorial effort.
Really?
Yeah,
Yeah,
as a matter of
pretty-
fact, I don't know if this is one of the pieces of trivia that Tristan was going to talk about, but he first approached Ron Howard to direct this.
Mhm.
And Ron Howard turned it down because he said there's nobody to root for.
Yeah.
And Bill Murray thought that's an odd thing to say. Maybe me and the co-writer will just take it on ourselves.
Yeah. So
Oh.
William, what was his name? I had it.
It's Howard Franklin.
Howard Franklin, who ended up working with him on Larger Than Life and
Oof.
yeah, this is the best thing they did together.
And The Man Who Knew Too Little.
Right, which I always wanted to see. Is that as bad as Larger Than Life?
You'll find out.
That's in 8 years. This was good. They did well together, I think, on this.
It's also based on a Jay Cromley novel, who they've adapted 2 others of his books. Have you ever seen the Richard Dreyfuss movie Let It Ride?
Love that.
The
Real good.
gambling horse track race movie.
That's
It's a good movie.
Came out the year earlier.
And one of Chevy Chase's best movies, Funny Farm.
Mm-hmm. Which he said is one of his favorites, right? Or is that the one he almost died on that he told us about?
No, that was Modern Problems. He almost died.
Okay, yeah. So yeah, this is a great film. It did not do well at all. It made what,
Unfortunately.
like 7 million total or something. It came in 7th at the box office that weekend.
7th's not bad.
It, was, I think it was like 22 million total. I forget.
Yeah.
There we go. The box office was a total of 15 domestic. Didn't even have it listed under worldwide. I don't know that it went worldwide, but Die Hard 2 had won the week, got 14 million, 10 million more than it was 4.7 it got in its first week. Didn't make much more. It was out of the box office a week later, at least the top 10. So even the re-release of The Jungle Book beat it. So people did not want to see this. But
I want to see a crossover between, like, there was a Die Hard 5, and it's just Bill Murray's character from Quick Change taking over Nakatomi Plaza.
Or because it's finally in New York, this could have been Die Hard with a Vengeance.
Right.
So yeah, any other final thoughts? I'm always surprised by these hidden gems, but I really liked it.
Yeah, I'd give it an A. I love it.
This was top notch. It transcends, letter grades. Like, it's just, it's Bill Murray at his Bill Murrayest, and I thoroughly enjoyed it. And it's just,
I definitely want more surreal comedies like this with the Dolorosa and the jousting. It's just too good.
Yeah.
So if you guys haven't seen it and haven't been, put off by our totally spoiling the entire movie, you should watch it.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, it's definitely an A plus, A grade movie.
We hope you agree with us now that you've re-listened to the podcast.
Yeah.
Right.
Like, yeah, no, let's go check out this Bill Murray movie from 1990.